Well, hello again. We are back with another sassy topic to help you grow your practice. My job and my love is to help you find the little hacks, the little things that are going to make your practice just be even more successful, save you time, save you money, and all the things. So, for those of you that don't know me, I had somebody ask me this week, like, what's your background? So, allow me, if you will, I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes version because I have so many new listeners to the podcast. So, my background, I started as a bookkeeper when I was very young in my 20s. And my dad was an entrepreneur. My mom stayed home. And I've just always just been really fascinated with this whole world of business. And I saw my dad, be in business. He worked really hard and he took really good care of people, and integrity and doing the right thing was a core value for him. And that's a core value for me. But he was in the car business, and that car business can be slimy. Like, there's nasty, not nice people in the car business. Like, you can get raked over. I never saw my dad do that ever, ever, ever. Even if he lost money, he always did the right thing by everyone. So I was very intrigued by this, how he blended his integrity, his morals, his character, his core values into his business. So, when I was in my 18, 19, I kind of had a little side hustle all the time. And I found that I really loved working with businesses. And so I kind of had my own little side gig going on, my little side hustle while I was having babies and raising kids. But I also loved working with businesses. So I had bookkeeping training and I worked as an accounting assistant. So I would go into a small business. Like, I remember I worked with a car wash one time, Astro Car Wash. And I worked with a floral shop one time. And I worked with a nonprofit once. And I would go into these businesses and they literally just had shoe boxes of receipts. And oh my gosh, I was so happy. It just made me so happy. Oh, give me the shoe box of receipts. I could organize it and put them all in the right expense accounts and get their inventory lined up and get their assets and all the things and get it all kind of ready to go to the accountant. I loved it. Made me so happy. So that was my business background. And then my oldest daughter was diagnosed with bone cancer when she was 10 years old. So that kind of went on the back burner, and I went into mama bear mode where I had to fight for my child. And so went through that whole process, came out of that process at the end, but I never lost the entrepreneurial bug, right? So I ended up going back to school and I got a couple doctorates and my master's and all the things. And then I decided, well, now I know I've entrenched myself in this world of alternative medicine because of what happened with my daughter. And I was already kind of leaning that way, but I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know nothing compared to, after I went to school and now, but I still had that business thing in me. I was like, I got to do this. So I opened my own practice, and very quickly, within a very short amount of time, within a couple of years, I grew it to over $1 million. We were doing almost 1.2 million, and I was the only practitioner, top line revenue. So I knew how to grow a business. I knew how to do it. And I learned a lot along the way. Let me tell you, it wasn't like I just, it was a jack in the box. I popped out of the box and went, oh, I got this figured out. I just figured it out by hook or crook. Like, I fired an employee from a rest stop via text message one time. Not my proudest moment. Like, I did not handle that well. I was too scared to confront her. It just wasn't a good match. It wasn't a good fit. And I was just too nervous to have the conversation. And so I pulled over. I was on the freeway and I pulled over in a restaurant and I just texted her. So, I did some things the wrong way. And one time I ordered a bunch of inventory and didn't check the expiration dates, didn't realize that the shelf life was only 6 months. And I had to throw away $2,000 worth of inventory. That was kind of a bad moment. So today, actually, what we're going to talk about is supplements and inventory. But that's kind of my background. So when I finally got this whole running a practice thing down, where I knew that I could leverage it, and I know how to create revenue, I know how to get dollars up, I know how to create protocols. That's why I created Clinical Academy. I know how to do business. That's why I have Clinical Business Academy, because it's for clinicians like you and like me. I'm just going to teach you what I know. So today, I want to talk to you. That's my why. And that's why I can talk to you about this, because I've been there. Let me tell you, I've taken the lashes, the whipping, the beating, the losses, all the things. And it's a never ending process, but at least I can kind of give you some guidance about what I've learned along the way. And that's why I thought I would talk about supplements today. It was kind of a spin-off of a prior podcast that I did, episode 194. But nonetheless, let's talk about this for a minute. So If you have a brick and mortar practice, you are going to have supplements. You should have supplements in, and you're doing wellness work. You should carry some kind of an inventory. At one time, when I was making that high level of revenue, we had $50,000 of wholesale inventory at any given time. That's a lot of money to be tied up in inventory. Now, looking back, I would not recommend that because a lot of that inventory ended up going expired. And so that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. So what would happen is I would go to a seminar and the speaker would be talking about whatever. And I'd be like, oh, I want a case of that and 6 of those and 4 of those. You've probably all done this, right? And then you get back and you get them in and you're like, yeah, what was the dosing on that? And I better go find my notes. And what was that one for again? You get all excited in the moment and you think, oh, yes, I definitely want that. And then I didn't know how to use them and they didn't fit with my good idea, great supplement, good outcome, but it kind of hadn't integrated with my brain in the way that I was structuring protocols with patients. So those supplements would sit there and then I would forget about them because they weren't integrated into my process, right? You know how you have you just go with your role. You're in your lane. I say that all the time. So whatever your role is, you're cruising along doing your thing. I hadn't mentally made that integration. So I would forget about them and then they would end up going bad. And so anyway, so when you have a brick and mortar practice and you carry a physical inventory, if you're just starting out, I would not recommend more than maybe 2 bottles of about 10 things. So maybe 10 things that you know that you're going to go through. Now, at the time, we used a lot of adrenal tonic from Standard Process called Adrenal Tonic Phytosynergist right now. And we were making that blend by hand. So I would have bottles and bottles and bottles of Rehmannia, ashwagandha, echinacea, and licorice high grade. Well, I'd order 15 bottles of Rehmannia liquid and 15 bottles of echinacea. And we just had all of them lined up because I knew that we were hand mixing all of those, labeling them and sending them out the door, and people were coming back for them. We would go through 20, sometimes 30 bottles of that in a week. That's a lot of volume, and we were mixing like crazy, and we would ship them. So we had all of the packing supplies and the postal boxes, which are free, by the way. All we had to do was buy the bubble wrap and then print the label, and we would ship them out all over the place. So that was a big part of the revenue that we created, and it was because we had that liquid blend. Now, I have a full lesson on that inside Clinical Academy. So if that's something that you're interested in, Clinical Academy is where you can learn more about that. So when I started to know what products in my inventory were keepers and which ones, like the one I mentioned earlier, I would buy them on a whim, waste that money, and then they would expire and I would have to give them away or throw them away. So we've all had that happen, right? It just happens. I just went through, as a side note, I just went through my supplement cupboard and my office flooded. So I had to move everything out and then I moved everything back in. Well, when you do that, you go through all your things. I'm not kidding you. I swear to you. And this is 2024 right now today when I'm recording this. I found supplements that were from 2016. I still have them. My gosh, they're 8 years old. They're just good for nothing but fertilizer. Fine. Just if they're capsules or tablets or whatever, I'd throw so much away. I had protein powder and whole food fiber. I had so much. I just had to get rid of it. And it just killed me. It was like throwing money away. So I don't want you to do that. I want to talk to you today about how to be strategic when you're bringing in inventory. Now, if you have a virtual practice, hang on with me if you haven't left already, but I'm going to talk about this for those of you that are virtual or even a hybrid. But I'm going to finish my combo here with the brick and mortar. So when you bring those products into your practice, you want to bring in no more than about 10 items, and they're items that you use all the time, okay? Ones that you know you're going to turn over. When you order multiple items, let's say you get a special, they have a special, some supplement company is like, buy 10, get 2 free. Well, you think, oh gosh, I'm going to get 2 free. Well, friend, that doesn't do you any good if you're not going to use them and you end up throwing them away. So buy what you need. Buy the smallest amount that you need. If you know that you're selling adrenal tonic, I'll use that as an example. I knew that I was going to go through 20 bottles a week. So I had enough to make about 30 or 35 bottles a week. And then I would order more. Some weeks were less, some weeks were more, but I always had a little bit of extra. So if you're just starting out, you might want to order 2 or 3 bottles of the things that you know that you're going to use on a fairly regular basis with your patients. And then maybe the things that you know move a little faster. In other words, your turnover is a little faster. Then you want to maybe order a few more. So here's a rule of thumb. Are you ready? This is how you'll know how many to order. Every supplement, if it occupies space on a shelf somewhere in your office, or if you have a home office and you carry inventory, because some virtual practices do that as well. I did. If you have a supplement that's taking up space on that shelf, that supplement should turn for you 5 to 6 times a year at a minimum. So let me explain what that means. If you buy a bottle of adrenal tonic, now you don't have to mix it. It's all pre-made by standard process Medier. But if you were to buy XYZ supplement, whatever it is, and it sits on your shelf for more than 3 months and you're not going to sell it, then don't order anymore. And you just know that that's a no-go for you. If the supplement is going to take up space on your shelf, you need to be able to sell it and restock it no less than 5 to 6 times a year. More is better. So that's like every roughly 2.5 months. So you've got to have supplements that are rolling. We got to turn them. Otherwise, you're going to end up with shelves that are full of supplements that just sit there and collect dust. And when that happens, then we have to run the risk of losing money or having to sell them at a discount. I don't like for you to have to do that. Now let's talk about if you're a virtual practice. What do you do with supplements and inventory? If you're a virtual practice and if you have the space, I would highly suggest that you bring in inventory. When you have physical inventory, your margins are going to be higher. They are. You may lose a little bit on shipping. You can charge shipping. I don't think a $12 shipping charge is unreasonable. You could do it for $9, depending on where you live, where you ship. But you want to charge the patient for the shipping. Like, don't absorb that cost. Everybody expects to pay for shipping. But if you have to order from, let's say, 2 supplement companies, and so maybe your shipping costs are $15 altogether, and you're charging the patient $10, we'll say. So what if you lost $5 on shipping? You made more than $5 because you had the proper margin or markup on the products. So you're still money ahead as compared to using something like FullScript or some of the other online ordering platforms where you're not making that full commission. And that's part of your business model. That's why I was able to grow that $1 million+ practice, because supplement sales were a part of that revenue. And I needed it to pay the building. I had a big 2,400 square foot office. It was comfortable. I mean, it was big for me, just for a single person, but that's why we have to do that. So FullScript is fine. It's convenient and I get it. And you're still going to make that, 35% or whatever it is, which is fine. But if you have a little shelf you can put in your office at home or a closet or somewhere you can just take, again, those top 10 things that you know that you're going to sell or use with most patients, especially if you have a niche. Let's say you're Hashimoto's. Last week I talked about Hashimoto's. You want to make sure that with that Hashimoto's patient that you've got enough supplement support, herb support, that's the right thing for that Hashi's patients. Mostly what you're going to use: digestive support, autoimmune support, thyroid support, maybe constipation, whatever it is that you're seeing in your practice. So if you're a virtual and you have the space, I highly suggest that you take the time to carry some inventory. Now, bring it in your office, order the free shipping supplies, which you can do. You only have to order bubble wrap. You have to pay for that, but that's about it. And there should be covering the lion's share of the shipping. The patients are happy because they're going to get their product quickly. You already have it in stock and you can kind of control it. They're used to ordering it then from you. They're not as tempted to go out and buy it online or look for it on Amazon or one of these other, online platforms where somebody else is making the money. It makes me crazy. I get cranky because I'm doing the patient education and then the patient goes out and just buys their stuff online. That's why I advocate for a Shopify store that has all of the things that you offer, and it's private. So the link only goes to your patients. You can create a QR code and all of your favorite supplements are listed on your Shopify store, that store site. And when you give that link to your patients, or you give them a QR code, then they will order directly from you on that site. You're still going to fulfill the order on the back end. So you'll get the notification, patient Mary ordered 3 things from Standard Process and 5 things from Doctor's Research or whatever supplement companies, biotics or whatever. And there's some hiccups and, things that can kind of get wonky with that, but at least you're not losing the money to an online shop or store, and you're doing all the education, and then the patient just goes and finds it somewhere else. It makes me crazy. It makes me not want to help them. I'm sorry, but I'm just being honest. It makes me go, well, listen, if you want to go buy that online, then you should ask them to help you. Because at least for me, I'm providing you with the clinical guidance and education about this product. So I expect you to get it from me. And I have that in my office policy, by the way. So those of you that have hung around me long enough, I'm kind of a stickler about that. Like if they don't buy their supplements from me, through me, then their appointment costs double. Their appointment costs will go way up. And then that usually fixes the problem. Usually at that point, they're like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll just get my supplements from you. Problem solved. And then I can see how much they're reordering or not reordering, et cetera. So there you go. I hope this is helpful for you. If you are a virtual practice and you decide that you don't want to carry inventory, then you really are just left, doing a lot of drop shipping. The disadvantage to that is if you pass all of those shipping costs along to the patient, they don't like that because they're getting a shipping cost from Gaia, and then one from Doctor's Research, and then one from Biotics, and one from Standard Process, and one from Cellcore, and you're going to shipping cost them to death. And that's kind of the disadvantage there. So it kind of makes you have to stick with just one or two supplement companies. But there's so many good products out there from different companies. So if you're going to do that, you might as well just use FullScript and you're going to take a 15%, at least 15% hit on the commission side. So your revenue is not going to be as high. But if you're a virtual practice and that's more convenient for you, then that's awesome. You can totally do that. So if you're brick and mortar and you can carry it in your office, that's the best option. If you're a hybrid and you can carry it in your office, great. If you're virtual and you have space to carry just those few products that you're going to use, that's great. But otherwise, you can use something like FullScript. Now, before I go, one more thing I want to talk about. I get asked this a lot, and that is, how do you manage the inventory? How do you manage the count of the inventory? And here's my recommendation. Now, there are apps and programs and software that you can subscribe to, like Practice Better or Jane or some of the other ones, that will count your inventory. Absolutely, they will. So you can say you've got, I've got 5 of this one thing. But you also have a responsibility at the end of the year to file your taxes with the IRS. And that usually requires some kind of accounting software like QuickBooks. Most people use QuickBooks. So if you're using QuickBooks and your account is using QuickBooks, at the end of the year, your accountant's going to want to know, how much inventory do you have? Now, at that point, as of December 31st of your calendar year, if that's when your year is, and most people it is, you're going to want to do a physical count of your inventory. I have 8 bottles of this, 3 bottles of this, 2 bottles of this. Oh, here's a couple that are bad, so I got to write those off. You're going to want to take a full inventory count of everything that you have, and then that you're going to report to your accountant, because that's an important asset for your business. Your inventory is an asset, just like an adjusting table, just like your front desk, just like the pictures on your walls, like things, assets, the tangible things that you have in your business that help you run your business, right? Office chairs, that kind of thing. So it's an asset. Even if you have a virtual practice, it's an asset. It's something you paid for that has value because you've paid for it. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that you're accounting for that correctly at the end of the year. Now, for me, what I do, and I've always done, is I've used QuickBooks to manage my inventory. I've only added it into QuickBooks. So when I pay the vendor, so let's just say that it's Standard Process, because I've used them for so many years. Let's just say I get an invoice from Standard Process. I'm going to enter that into QuickBooks, and I'm going to say I got 5 of this product and 7 of this one and 2 of this, and that equals my invoice. Now my inventory is updated. Then when I invoice the patient, I am saying the patient bought 1 of this, 1 of this, and 1 of this. And now it's reducing my inventory. So my inventory is always going up as I buy more and down as I sell more. So QuickBooks for me is the nerve center, because at the end of the year, when I do my inventory count, I want it to tie back and balance inside QuickBooks. So some of these apps that you can use for your EMR, right? What you're using to manage your patient information. Some of the apps will absolutely track that kind of thing for you. And that's fine if that's how you want to do it. But at some point, you're going to have to quantify that and put it into QuickBooks or provide it to your accountant if you don't manage your own QuickBooks. So that's kind of how the inventory works as far as the business side and the tangible goods, I'll say, at the end of the month or the quarter or the year. Another reason that I would really recommend that you don't wait till the end of the year to do this, and here's why. I did that once when I made my big faux pas. If you read on my website and you go to my About page, you'll read about my big epic business disaster and how I got into debt and it was bad. It was so bad. And I got my way out of it. But I mean, I was like a hair's width away from declaring bankruptcy because I got sassy and got an attitude and didn't think things through all the way. And I opened a new business and I should not have done that. But anyway, what I did was during that about a year, I was scrambling, man. I was scrambling and I did not pay my payroll taxes for a year. I didn't balance my bank statements for 14 months and I didn't count inventory. I didn't do anything. Well, what I ended up finding at the end of the year, I'm going to give you an example. If you have a product that has two sizes, let's say a small and a large, the front desk, we were so busy. We were so busy because we were like cranking volume through really good. And so what would happen was the front desk would be so busy that she would accidentally invoice someone for a small, but would give them a large. Now, every once in a while, we'd have a patient that would say, hey, I don't think you charged me enough for that. But not everybody was that honest. But they would always come back and say, you charged me for a large and I only got a small. But if it was the other way around, they often didn't say anything. Or we would invoice one product that was a Cataplex A CP and it should have been a Cataplex A and there was a $2 difference. Now all of a sudden my inventory says, you don't have enough Cataplex A to sell, but you got way too much Cataplex ACP. Are you following me? Because we were invoicing it incorrectly. Well, if I wait until the end of the year, now I've got 33 minus negative inventory on this one and 32 plus on this one. And I know that I have zero in my inventory and I just lost all that money. So don't wait until the end of the year. At a minimum, you should true up your inventory every quarter. At a minimum every quarter. If you can, do it every month. But if you carry a lot of inventory, it's a big lift. But at least do it every quarter. For that's how we did it. We just did it every single quarter. And when we had $50,000 worth of inventory, we didn't inventory all of it every quarter. We did it by sections. So we did half of it at the end of one quarter, and we did the other half at the end of the other quarter because it would take us about 3 hours to inventory all of it. And I didn't want to spend that much time every quarter. So ours got fully looked at twice a year. All supplements got looked at twice a year. But then I could catch the errors. And I could say to my front desk person, hey, watch your fingers there, sweetheart, because you're invoicing la, 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 and you should be invoicing da, 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 da. And we could catch it. We couldn't go back and make up that money, but at least I could catch the error. And from a business standpoint, like I'm wearing my CEO hat, I'm running a business here. This is not a for-profit. I mean, a non-for-profit. This is a for-profit business. I'm making a living here. This is my trade. This is what I do. I need to make a living. And so I can't be giving money away. And that means that I need to have an efficient business. So there you go. That's what I got for you today. Lots of words from the Rhonda mouth today. But I hope this is helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can always reach me at support@rhondanelson.com. If you want more help with your business side of things, you can come join me inside Clinical Business Academy. Go to rhondanelson.com/CBA. I have a whole training in there about inventory management, and all the things. But if you're struggling, you've got the clinical thing down, but you're like, I just know I don't know how to run a business. I'm telling you, I know how to do this, friend. I can get you there. You do the work along with me. We're going to be in this together. I'm not going to leave you high and dry. We'll do it together, and I can get you that practice at whatever level that you want it to be at. I do know how to grow wellness practices, and you can join a lot of other practitioners that are on the same page as you. They're all trying to do the same thing. So there you go. That's what I've got for you this week. I hope this was helpful. I think the key takeaway is if you're going to carry a supplement, it has to turn at least 5 to 6 times a year. Okay, that's number one. And then make sure that you're managing that inventory at least once a quarter if you can. All right, friends, take care. I'll see you next week on the Clinical Entrepreneur Podcast.